discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. When I say the green movement, what comes to mind? Money or the environment? What about sustainability? What is that all about? And how does the African American community fit into all of this? Tonight, we're talking about our role in the movement to protect the planet, save our natural resources, and develop new jobs in the process. Please welcome Carletta Waddler, CEO of EcoMaintenance, Sharon Campbell, Managing Director of the Center for Green Research and Evaluation at Elizabeth City State University, and Terez Patterson, the Subcommittee Chair of the Park Place Civic League Green and Clean Committee. Welcome, ladies, to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. Now, I have to admit, and you guys are going to get me because you're all in the green movement, but when you think about overall the green movement and you think about African Americans, I kind of think of that commercial, that seventh generation commercial with the black gentleman with the dreads and the Birkenstocks, and, you know, he's all about clean. But that's really not the right image, is it, Carletta?
Well, it's that and a whole lot more than that. I think it's a combination of, you mentioned, is it about money? Is it about environment? It's about money, and it's about environment. And it's about sustainability. So it's all of those things. Mm-hmm. So that's a snapshot of what it's about.
But historically, African Americans have always been involved in the green movement, if you will. Have they not?
Yeah, we have, but I think it's been a combination of social and green. Okay. We've done things like we've fought dumping grounds. We've fought lead being in paint in low-income housing and that kind of thing. But we haven't done as much in the area of recycling and sustainability, and I think that we're moving in that direction. Our president is helping us to move in that direction.
Okay. Now, you got involved through a very personal story. Can you share that story with us?
Well, about 7 years ago, on the day that my granddaughter was born, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I had to start to look at my life differently. I had to start looking at eating organically. I had to start looking at what was happening with my own personal space and my own world. And in doing that, I eventually ended up in a green place, in a green world. And I realized that minorities were not as involved in the green movement per se as other cultures were at the time. We're heading in that direction, but it wasn't quite where it needed to be. So I decided that I was going to do something in green, and I started educating myself, reading everything I could get my hands on, as well as getting certified as a green consultant, and also getting LEED certified. So started moving in that direction.
Okay, and we'll come back and talk a little bit about how you help companies in a moment. But Terez, I want to talk to you because Park Place, which is a predominantly African American community, and you guys have a committee and you're very active in terms of green movement. Tell me some of the things you guys have going on.
Well, the primary purpose of the committee is to assist Park Place in becoming more environmentally friendly. And I think studies have shown that when communities, especially low and moderate income communities, are environmentally conscious, it makes the community more marketable. So as the market begins to recover in terms of real estate, you want to do everything you can to make your community more aesthetically pleasing and beautiful, so that when people begin to look for homes, they're not just looking for a home, they're looking for a community. And you want to do everything you can to certainly present it in a pleasing way and make sure that the residents are environmentally conscious.
So tell me a little bit about the conversation that was held as you guys decided that it was important for Park Place to move in this direction?
Well, presently we're going through a transition. We're going through, it's called the visioning and engagement process. And so we're really collectively trying to find ways that we can improve Park Place. The Green Committee was one perception of how we could go about doing that. The main initiative of the committee is we want to make sure that any new development in Park Place and rehab projects are using sustainable energy. During our monthly meetings during the Civic League, we want to make sure we educate our residents on ways that they can save on energy and conserve water, and also ways that as a community we can reduce the amount of trash that we're producing. We're constantly bringing information about green jobs, green education that is available, and we're also beginning in May, we're going to be arranging monthly cleanups where we go throughout the community, street by street, and we clean up any trash and litter that we see, and we give information to our residents about how as a community we can come together and become more environmentally friendly. So.
One of the things, Sharon, that she was talking about with green jobs and so forth, and Elizabeth City State University is playing a major role in Northeastern North Carolina in terms of helping communities there. Tell us a little bit about the program that you're working on.
The Center for Green Research and Evaluation represents 21 counties. Our goal is to really educate 21 counties and using community developers, economic developers. We also work with CDCs, faith-based organizations, elected officials, environmental folks. So it's a collective of bringing, everyone starts on the same page with the green economy. So no one's left behind. So we bring a group of people together, different backgrounds, and say, look, how do we move this as it would create jobs for these 21 counties? So we're spearheading this new economic development around the green economy.
And what kind of jobs are you going to create?
We'll look at having people to rethink the way they do business, as you look at janitorial service, rethink the cleaning project, as you look at storm back restoration, looking at wetlands, how do we do climate change different? We're also looking at new opportunities with developing new businesses in the solar, energy, power, wind, thermal, to really look at schools, as you renovate schools, how are you going to make them more cost effective? As you renovate homes, how do you really weatherize a home that is older? Or when you build a new home, how do you do that in a way that it create new jobs and stuff and opportunity?
Okay. Barbara, I think that if you can kind of put in this focus that the green economy is to our generation what the railroad was to Lincoln and what Roosevelt did with the New Deal. Okay, the green economy is what is going to bring this economy into
out of the recession
and into the 21st century. And it's not going to be an optional thing. Like we talk about it, we talk about housing having options, doing these things as sort of enhancements. They're not going to be enhancements 5 years from now. They're going to be the way we live and the way we do business. And African Americans and minorities need to get on board because this is the future of where our economy is going. If you look at where the president is putting money, he's putting money into the green economy because this is where the new jobs are going to be created. So it's not an option anymore. It's not a tree hugger concept anymore. It's a real.
So you're saying this is a real mainstream.
It's real
mainstream. This is the way our life is going to be. You know, let's go down to the basics for a moment and kind of work our way through, because I want to talk about the jobs creation and so forth too. But Terez, I'm going to turn to you because I think you went with our producers and went out to look at some things that we as homeowners, just everyday people, not even homeowners, but everyone can do to start becoming active in the green movement. Things like personal items, personal care items, for example. Tell us a little bit about what we should be looking for.
When more information becomes available about the toxins that are in many of our household cleaning agents and a lot of our personal care products, including cosmetics, especially with the household cleaning products, the EPA has said that the typical household is about 2 to 5 times more polluted than the air outside. And they cite the household cleaners and pesticides that we use in our home in a confined area as some of the main reasons why our air is so polluted. So it's definitely worthwhile to consider purchasing some of the more green alternatives that are less toxic for the environment.
Now I got to tell you, Perez, when you look at the price tag of the toxic thing that we've been used to using versus green. Convince me, ladies. Why should I pay that extra $2, $3, $5?
Because of your health.
Well,
Right.
and you don't have to pay the extra $2, $3, $5. If you go, everybody Googles now. Googling is the way of the world. Lavender kills ants. I mean, there are some very natural products that will do cleaning jobs that you don't even have to go into that. Baking soda does a world of good, girl. You know that. So, I mean, there are about 100 uses for baking soda.
Vinegar and water is an
simple.
Vinegar and water is a great
Absolutely.
all-purpose cleaner. Great. But the other thing is, along with doing something that's good for the environment, we are in a depressed economy, and sustainability usually produces profit at home. If you use natural products, it's going to be cheaper. If you pull out your computer at night and don't have that energy being used, your electric bill is going to go down. If you have your house weatherized and do an energy audit, you're going to save money eventually on that energy audit. Most of the things that you do will save you money and help the environment at the same time. So it's a win-win.
So how do you change the mindset? How do you get someone who lives in Park Place now, who's not doing some of these things, to come on board?
I think the health issue, especially with a lot of the chemicals that we're using, I think that's compelling information. And I think when you have the perception that you're cleaning your home and you're keeping a good home, but you're not aware of the pollutants that you're putting in your home, and a lot of the chemicals that are in the products have led to skin and eye irritation, central nervous disorder, asthma, allergies, and if you have some of these conditions, you may not be attributing it to your home. So once this information becomes available, then you may begin to look, well, maybe I need to, start using an alternative or some of the natural home concoctions that you can make at home, and see if that improves some of your conditions and your air quality as well in your home.
Sharon, I know one of the things we had talked about earlier in terms of the jobs was that you would be working with farmers to perhaps change what they grow, or tell
the
me
way they grow what they're doing.
Okay.
Back in the, I would say in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, we grow more as they call it, organic now, with all the pesticides and fertilizers. So what we're looking at now is reteaching that to the youth, to say it's healthier when you could go out in a garden and eat a tomato without having all that pesticide with that. Well, if you take that product and you start saying, how much vegetables can I grow? You look how much money you save without going to the market. Then look at your health, because it's more healthy for you. Then if you go back to the natural, growing them, canning them, producing them, all of that, then you can also take those same products and sell them to folks, people in housing developer or wherever developer at a cheaper price, that with their health they can improve that. Then they can save money. Because if they're not paying that full price in the grocery store, their health is better. They're not going to the doctor.
Right. And I could see in the rural area growing your garden and so forth, but in the city?
Oh yeah, they do it in the city. Majora Carter did one of the, she did a major project in New York that became the project as far as urban renewal is concerned. And part of that project was rooftop gardening. So people in the city, and not only that, but there's space in the city to do regular gardening. And they're doing it in cities all over
there's space, but are people really taking the time?
Yes.
Sure.
Because that takes time. I mean, that's a different mindset than going to the grocery store and picking up that tomato or whatever.
Education. In some cities in Durham, they are looking at concrete pavement, and they turn that up and tilting that dirt and using it as a youth training. And the youth really enjoy growing their own vegetables. They see the value of that. And when you talk about obesity, you can also look how you can really, truly educate kids and youths and parents, and they're like, oh wow, this makes sense.
So green is much more than putting in that new light bulb.
Yes, much more than putting in a little more.
Carletta, you are a consultant to businesses to help them become green. Okay, I'm a business. Okay. What do you do? How do you change the way I do business?
Well, money is, you know, businesses think of money, and I hate to say it, but green and money go together. They say it ain't easy being green. Kermit said that, okay? So, but I think that businesses are coming to the actualization that they have to, they need to change. There have been several really great books written. One is called The Triple Bottom Line, and it talks about the involvement of businesses in social change, community, and in environmental change. Those are the three axioms that are used to sort of gauge whether you are a green business or not. There's also a B corporation, which determines if you're a green business or not. The public is mandating that you go green. There are people now calling hotels and asking, are you a green hotel? What is a green hotel? A green hotel is a hotel that uses some of the principles of green. For instance, your towels may not get washed every day. Your bed linen is not going to get changed every day. They may have low flow toilets, that kind of thing. And they're using green cleaning products, and that's another thing that my company does, is we distribute a whole industrial line of green cleaning products. So we go in and we try to sit down with that business, develop a business plan. It's a step-by-step process. If I told you, Barbara, that I was coming to your house tomorrow and we're going green, you would shoot me. But if I said to you, you know what, let's do this week. Throw away the plastic water bottle and get a metal bottle that you use over and over again. And that, if I had 20,000 people do that, I would save this many. I mean, it's amazing how these numbers multiply. You could start there, and that's what I do with businesses. And everybody's got to buy into it, from the administrative person to the president. Everybody's got to buy into the concept. And that's how we do it.
Does it make it harder, though, when municipalities, for instance, I'm thinking of, and I hope I have this right, if I don't, I'm going to get shot by the city of Suffolk, but I believe that they have stopped picking up curbside recycling, and that residents have to go and literally take their recycling items to dumpsters and so forth.
As a way to save money? To
save money, yes. So in other words, my question is, if in other cities, they will pick up your recycling right along with your regular trash pickup and so forth. So when you have to cut back on those ways, do people cut back then on their desire to recycle and to do the thing they need to do?
Yeah. And the statistics show that African Americans actually do less recycling than the general market. For some reason, we're more supportive of green policies and efforts, but we don't recycle as we should. So,
why do you think that is?
You know, I really don't know, and I don't think anybody really knows what it is, because we are actually bullish when it comes to other aspects of green. Maybe it's less education, even though I'm looking at my granddaughter who now comes to my house and says, I don't flush the toilet every time I use it because it takes up too much water. So we, you know, the younger folks are getting it early. Our generation is getting it a little later, and I think we're still building value when it comes to things like recycling. We're still building that concept of value. But yeah, we definitely need to do it for folks.
But I think in the olden days, in the 50s and 60s, that we did recycle. When you look at picnics, we kept the paper plates we used again. We kept the aluminum foil. We kept the cans and stuff.
I did not keep a paper plate.
Well, they have.
But some people did.
Many people did, and covered your food with, put your aluminum foil, and you use that. And you use that can over again. So I think that tradition, we move as we become more educated and become more complacent, and now we're going back to those traditions that we are before.
So we're going back to the basics.
Right, back to basics. You know, we kept paper forks in the olden days, recycle them. But now we going back to, we got to keep this fork, we got to use this paper plate. You put it in your dishwasher. How many times, if you have children, you put those plastic cups in there, you keep them. You would say, when the economy was good, we threw that away. The economy is not good. We keep that, and I mean, even when you sit at the table with your granddaughter, you're like, okay, we're going to keep this cup and use it one more time. Let's write your name on that cup. So I see the trend that we're recycling. I see the kids that we're teaching our kids to recycle, and they are more conscious. And that's the generation is really going to benefit from this new green movement, because we're going to
train them. So the next generation to come.
And I really think we should be at the African Americans should be at the forefront of this movement, because about 90% of America's landfills are in African American communities. And we know, and many studies have concluded, that communities and people that live next to landfills have higher incidences of cancer and other diseases. So really the way America decides to handle their trash and deal with their trash really has a direct effect on many African American communities across America.
We have less than a minute. I want one thing from each of you, and I mean literally one thing that someone can do to get started to recycle. Carletta.
An energy audit in their home.
Energy audit, okay.
Educating one another.
Okay.
Composting.
Composting, which is a whole nother thing. And I wish we had time to get into it, absolutely. Ladies, thank you so much for this information. I think this is a conversation we need to continue as we move forward, because this is, as you said, the wave of the future. This is not something that we can afford to sit back and wait to see if it's going to happen. It's already here.
Oh,
definitely. Thank you so much for joining us. And when we come back, we're going to take a tour through the home of the rich and famous, 1800s style. But first, here's what's happening in Hampton Roads. What you're about to see is just amazing. But first, let me set the scene. The year is 1899, and you're visiting a home of a prominent Newport News attorney. His large Victorian house is elegantly decorated and filled with handcrafted furnishings. But more importantly, within these very walls, decisions are being made that will impact lives for generations to come. You're about to meet the man of the house, Thomas Newsome. A black man who is very rich, and because he didn't start out that way, is determined to make Newport News a better place to live for the blacks who called it home.
The historic Newsome House is impressive now, so one can only imagine the looks this beautiful Victorian home got in the early 1900s, not to mention the fact that the couple who owned it, Thomas Newsome and his wife Mary, were black. Thomas Newsome is a prime example of if you can believe it, you can achieve it. He grew up on the Princeton plantation in Sussex County, Virginia, the son of slaves. As a child, he always admired the big house where the owner and his family lived. So after finishing Virginia State and graduating from Howard Law School, he married his college sweetheart and started making his vision a reality. He decided to renovate a shotgun house that sat on the corner of 25th and Oak in Newport News, bumping out a wall here and there and adding fixtures along the way, including an eye-catching wraparound porch. In 1906, Thomas Newsome moved his wife and the couple's only daughter, Maurice, into their new home.
Mr. Newsome employed craftsmen to create this beautiful, elegant archway, the archways in this home. Prime example of the craftsmanship, because they had no power tools. They didn't use power tools. This was all hand done, and it has stood the test of time.
Donna Davis is the curator of the historic Newsome House Museum.
And the floors also are handcrafted, and these are the original floors of the house. They've been here since 1899. The landings on the stairway are actually quilt patterns. As you go up the steps, you'll see these little triangle brass pieces, and they're called dust catchers. And Mrs. Newsome actually had those fabricated to help her keep the dirt out of the corners of the stairway as you go up. So you shouldn't have to.
At the top of the stairs is one of 2 bathrooms with indoor toilets, something almost unheard of for a black family in 1906. These elegant rooms hosted many prominent figures in history, including Booker T. Washington. But the Newsomes' beautiful home and impressive furnishings were just a small part of Thomas Newsome's vision. Thomas Newsome was determined to improve the lives of others.
The story goes that Mr. Newsome was sitting on his beautiful porch, and some citizens actually approached him and asked him about the fact that there was no secondary school for their children to attend. And he said, well, you know, we'll take care of that. He went to the city and commissioned them to build Huntington High School. This picture here is actually a picture of Mr. Newsom in his main office, which was located at 25th and Jefferson. They call that 25 and J. That was the business hub of the black community here in the East End of Newport News. And then we have these plaques here that show that he was actually one of the few African American lawyers that were actually given the credentials to present cases before the Supreme Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia and for Virginia.
Thomas Newsom not only fought social injustice in the courtroom as a lawyer, but also as the editor of the Newport News Star. He worked tirelessly with community organizations and his church to make sure blacks in his community were given the same social and civic amenities that were enjoyed in the surrounding communities.
Mr. Newsom was the co-founder of Trinity Baptist Church, which is still worshiping every week. It's located on Chestnut Avenue, one street over.
Thomas Newsom was 73 years old when he died in March of 1942. By that time, he had touched so many lives that more than 3,000 people crowded in and around the First Baptist Church on Jefferson Avenue to pay their respects.
30 boxes of books up in the attic that were taken out, and they were taken from the library that was located in the attic office that Mr. Newsom had. And that library was actually the first public library of sorts that was made available to African Americans in this community. He loved reading and knew the importance of reading.
The Newsom House is a wonderful look at the legacy of a man who began with so little and did so much for so many. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And that's what's so nice about this show. You learn something new every week. And we thank you for joining us this week. Please remember to visit our website, anotherview.tv, and sign up for our eView newsletter. You can also watch past episodes of the show. Next week, the name game. Why does the name of our race change so often? Join us for what promises to be an engaging and thought-provoking discussion next week on Another View. We'll see you then.